if a, if attention is currency, the former squatter Donald Trump is going broke. Basically, he's losing his grip on reality and public attention. Um, since Trump has since Trump has largely lost his status as one of the nation's top newsmakers since he was kicked out from squatting in the White House and being deplatformed by the major social media platforms, according to a new analyst, raising questions about whether the former squatter will be able to maintain his stranglehold over the public conversation and the stranglehold that propelled him to squatting in the White House in 2016 as he eyes a potential 2024 bid. Hopefully he'll lose that. Trump's media attention has been so lacking, in fact, that he has broken the bottom of Social Flow's Trump Index, a scale that measures social media engagement on stories pertaining to Trump on a 100 to 0 scale, with 100 measuring what they call peak attention. And the scale is calibrated so that a 50% represents the score Trump received during an average day during his final years in office, or the final year, basically. So Social Flow, a company that publishes content to social media on platforms for more than 300 media outlets, including the New York Times and Washington Post, found that while Trump hit 100 on the scale on the day that the Capitol riot happened, he has notched a score of less than 1 on many days since he was kicked out from squatting. The analyst comes as the question of how Trump will wield his influence looms heavier over U.S. politics, especially in the Republican Party. And while some Republicans, like Representative Cheney, who's a Republican from Ohio, not Ohio, Wyoming. I'm spacing out here for a little bit. I've only been up for an hour. Have pushed to leave Trump behind. Others have remained more loyal to the former squatter. Representative Dan Crenshaw, who's a Republican from Texas, argued last month that the party can't excommunicate the former squatter. Certainly, attention is currency in the role of politics, and right now, Trump doesn't have as nearly much attention as he used to. This is coming from Social Flow CEO Jim Anderson, and he said this in a recent interview with the National Review. He's going to have to find a way to recapture that ability to not just tweet, but to get his message across out on some platform. Anderson said that while it was expected that Trump's numbers would drop to some extent, the former president and the squatter don't typically enjoy the same attention as they did while being in office, or squatting, like Trump was a squatter. It has just been surprising just how low the ratings have been. I'm not sure anybody expected it to drop down below, just on a scale of 0 to 100, he said. It was just a fucking mess, and we had to read to find the bottom end of the fucking index. But however, Trump's drop in the attention since leaving office has been compounded by the loss of his greatest megaphones, like his social media accounts, basically. After Trump incited the Capitol riot in January, Trump was banned from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And Facebook has banned him for 2 years, so he's not allowed to be on Facebook for 2 years. Twitter permanently suspended Trump from its platform in January, hence citing the risk of further incitement of violence, and meanwhile, Facebook announced on Friday that it has suspended Trump for at least 2 years. As Trump's tweets largely drove the news of the day for the better part of 4 years, he has struggled to find such an effective way to uphold the public's attention since he got deplatformed. He launched a blog from the desk of Donald J. Trump to communicate with his sycophants, but it was shuttered this week after just a month after it was first published. Basically, the reason why it was pulled is because it received very little engagement. Meanwhile, clicks to Trump stories plummeted 81% from January to February, another 56% from February to March, and 40% from March to April, according to Social Flow. The removal of Trump's blog, a ruling on Trump's account status by the Facebook Oversight Board, and the GOP drama surrounding Cheney's ouster from her Republican leadership role all served as recent news that drove a spike in Trump's media attention. However, none caused a remarkable surge in attention or sustained wave of attention, data from Social Flow. The highest rating Trump has reached on Social Flow's index is in the past 3 months. It was a 32. It was a 32 on May 13th, the day after Cheney was removed from her role as House Republican conference chair over her repeated criticisms of the former squatter. Trump's index rating dropped down to a 14 the next day and a 6 the day after that. Anderson says it's a chicken or the egg question to try to deconstruct whether the media is writing fewer stories about Trump because people are less interested, or if people are less interested because there is less reporting. I think it's both to some degree, he said, and adding that January's chaotic news cycle that surrounded Trump's final days in office likely left many readers and reporters with a high level of fatigue. But even once even once Trump returns to Facebook, it remains to be seen if he will be able to control the narrative and get the media coverage that he was getting before. Anderson said, it may be the media is just as fatigued as consumers are. He added, and there were certainly lots of criticism of the media from both the left and right about how they chose to cover the squatter Trump and politics more broadly. And he continued, we'll have to see if it's entirely possible, but the media is in a very different place, so that when we come up with the 2024 presidential election, you may very well find that the media coverage that your behaves quite differently. That the media coverage behaves quite differently, and he may not be able to recapture this. And while Trump has floated the idea of launching his own social media platform, and Anderson notes that the former squatter may ultimately be forced to choose between money and attention, and Trump is reportedly asking for a large payment up front from any social media platform he partners with in exchange for the followers he would likely bring to the new social network. A payout to Trump would likely leave any eventual social platform that partners with him with less money to put toward product development and marketing. It's an important choice for him, he said, but it obviously has financial implications to him if he's paid to go to a platform. But it's also got significant implications in terms of how successful he's likely to be. All platforms are not created equal, and freedom of speech is not the same thing as freedom of reach. Anderson added, he can say and put up on his social media site whatever the fuck he wants to say, but that doesn't mean that a social platform is obligated to carry it, and it certainly doesn't mean that the media is obligated to report on it either. But yeah.